All right, welcome back to Mind Over Emotions, the podcast. I'm your host, Herc. If you haven't already, please do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Help this podcast grow, help spread the word about mental health. And also just to support the people who have shown vulnerability to come on here and tell their stories. If you would like to come be on the podcast, shoot me an email to mindoveremotions.thepodcast@gmail.com, or you may send me a text message to area code 702-525-6118. And if you would like to follow the podcast to catch all the shorts, the reels, and everything like that, we do have an Instagram and a TikTok. You can follow us on both under the handle Mind Over Emotions, the podcast. All right, so today I have a really special person, and let's get her on here. Hey, what's going on? You
Hey,
good?
what's up? How are you?
All right. You hear me?
Yeah,
All right. Can you do me a favor? Can you introduce yourself, name, age, where you're from, relationship status?
yeah. So I'm Allison Wharton. I'm 31 years old, even though I don't look it. I live out in San Antonio, Texas, as of 2 years ago. I am married to the love of my life, Zach Myers, and I am a online remote coach for mainly powerlifting, but I also do people that just want to feel healthy, feel good in their skin in the gym as well. I've been in that space now for almost 5 years now, and it's fun.
Okay. Uh, there's a lot of things in there I wanted to ask questions about. But the first thing I'm gonna ask you, how did you hear about the podcast and what made you want to come be on?
So I actually followed you first, like your own page, and then you had posted something like from from the podcast and my whole page on Instagram, I talk a lot about mental health. And so anything that's like mental health related and power, and from another power lifter, I'm like, okay, what's up? What's up with this? And I started going on the page. I listened to a couple of podcasts. Um, and I just ended up following along. Like I always like to hear other stories, regardless if they're a power lifter or not. But it's nice to know that there's other power lifters out there that do speak on mental health.
Okay. And you said you've been in San Antonio for 2 years. Where's
Yeah.
home?
Well, I was a military brat,
Oh,
so I moved from Maryland. Um, I lived out there for a while because my dad retired down there, well, up there. And I went up to college up to Western Maryland, a university called Frostburg State, and I ended up sticking around because my husband Zach, he was a local there, and I met him at a gym, and so once I graduated, I ended up sticking around, and we just we came down here 5 years ago for a USPA Nationals. And we decided, this is really nice, and for the caliber of lifter he is, like we just wanted to be around more power lifters in that community because we were in Western Maryland is a crazy rural place. Like everyone thinks it's West Virginia, but it's it's up in the Appalachian Mountains, middle of nowhere, not much is going on. And I just went up to college there. So when we started dating, I was like, "Do you want to leave here?" If he didn't want to leave, then no, like I'm not going to take you from a place like that you don't want to leave.
yes.
So
Well, first, let me just say it's kind of refreshing to see every time you speak about Zach, your husband, the big smile that gets on your face. That's refreshing to see that there are actually happy relationships out there and people who still believe that they can find true love and have already found it. So that's pretty cool that you still feel that way. How long you guys been married?
we've been married now for in February it was 2 years, and then we started dating. It'd be 7 years like together since in November. So no,
Oh,
I understand that because I hear things all the time now in the dating pool, and I'm like, I could never. Like, I will still, if I was like single, like I'm just gonna stay at home with my parents, have some cats, call it a day. Because there's some crazy stories out there, and I mean, it's always been a little crazy, but now, like with how social media is and just how the world is, like, sorry, my cat's climbing the TV. Stop. But yeah, it's just crazy out there, and I'm like, whoa, like. thank God I'm married.
So,
Like
so getting into you, growing up, did you grow up in a nuclear household?
in a what household?
A nuclear, meaning
What
that
does that
yeah, most people don't know. Nuclear means like you had your mother and your father in the same household.
Yeah. Both my parents still together. They were like they were high school sweethearts. They
Okay.
grew up in small town Alabama, and I think they're just all they know. Like, and my parents, they're best friends, and that's really important for me, like as someone who I'm with, because at the end of the day, like whomever you're married to, like that needs to be your best friend, your ride or die. And I mean, my parents are my parents, but like they're just together. Like they're always called like from their like friends like Bonnie and Clyde. Like they're always together. And I think that's how it should be, like once you're married, like you're a unit. Like you're not just one person, you're together.
Yeah, I agree. Was there ever a point in time? Because I feel like that as kids, our first idols, the first people we look up to are our parents, right? Typically, would you say that's the case for you, that you looked up to them?
Um, I I know I looked up to my dad because his work ethic. Um, just my dad retired as a senior chief in the Navy. He either did 20 or 25 years. I forget, but it's one of those milestone numbers. I just can't remember. But just like watching him like trying to, he worked his butt off. He was always gone. There were times when he was up for promotion and didn't get it, and he didn't come home. I mean, at least as a kid, of course I didn't see it, but he just didn't have a bad attitude. He just went right back to work and did the college courses he needed. He just kind of did what he had to do, to be promoted up. And he was doing that, to provide a better life and have money to support us. Because my mom was like a stay-at-home mom for like, I want to say until I was in high school. Because they just, when you're in the military, you don't have anyone like in that area where you're living in, and you don't really have anyone that like you can rely on for babysitting. My parents didn't want to do the daycare, or they didn't want to hire someone they didn't know, and I understand that. Like you just hear crazy stories nowadays, but like I did appreciate that having my mom home. But watching my dad just kind of work his butt off like all the time, just for his family, that was really big for me.
Speaking in terms of your dad, right? As a woman or as a little girl, a lot of times you kind of like take for you look up to your dad, like you said, but you don't really take into account like the things like you said, like about how he didn't get a promotion and how he took that and how he just instead of coming home and complaining and crying about it, being sour, he just kind of like adjusted, attacked the things that he needed to attack, and then got it done. You know what I mean? So would you say that growing up, those are things that you recognize in your father, and you kind of like value those things? And when you met like your different boyfriends or your husband or whatever, was that one of like the main things that you required for him from them?
Uh, yeah, I believe so. Just kind of playing that. I don't want to say like the gender role of being the man of the household, but with like my beliefs, like Christian beliefs, like you you do need to have some like leadership, like be able to hold yourself. I mean, I'm able to hold myself, like at the end of the day, like not saying suck in my emotions or anything like that, but like you need to know who you are too, like and to me, my dad knew who he was, through Christ, obviously. But like I needed a man that had confidence and that work ethic, no matter what work they did, no matter what the goal was, no matter what, you needed to just have some kind of drive,
Yeah,
And that was important to me. And I get that a lot from my dad, so I expect that from my partner as well.
yeah. Do you have
So
siblings?
I have one older sister, yeah.
Okay. How is it? How was
Um
that growing up?
so that's a lot actually why I talk about mental health. So my older sister, she's 33. She'll be 34 in December, I want to say. I forget. But so my older sister growing up, we just always knew she was different. And you can probably agree, because how old are you?
38.
Okay, so you can completely agree that mental health talk was not the same 20 years ago
Mm.
at all. It and like not I'm sure not every therapist, but like back then, like mental health awareness was not what it is now.
Not at
You
all.
know, the research wasn't there. People just didn't talk about it. And my older sister, like she was misdiagnosed with ADHD, because a lot of the studies were done on young boys. And so they misdiagnosed her with ADHD, coming to find out later on, like when I was in college, that she actually had like Asperger's, which is autism now on the spectrum. But just growing up, like watching my older sister kind of go through life feeling invalidated with the things that she felt, and no one talked about these things, and social media wasn't a thing back then, like, so kind of watching her grow up, but also like seeing like, okay, that's don't do that, like don't react in this way, don't have these emotions because it's not a good thing. So a lot of my life I kind of like shut off my feelings. I didn't know how to talk about my feelings. And she's a little better. She's going through some things. She has like a book of diagnosis. I sadly can will say that, but she still lives at home. So
Um, I know you stated that you had to like kind of like compress your emotions and stuff like that. Was that just on the topic of when it came around to something to do with your sister, or is that just how it was growing up, period, in the household?
how I was growing up, period.
Okay.
Like I'm diagnosed with ADHD, but and I always kind of knew something was off in my brain, but it wasn't until I was like 23, 24 when I really noticed it. But growing up, like, I'm looking at her and I'm like, well, I'm not like her. So I must not have any issues. It's just a me issue type of thing. And then I didn't get diagnosed with ADHD till like 3 or 4 years ago when I got into therapy consistently.
So
So,
you went the mass majority of your life so far
yeah,
having ADHD without actually knowing that it was clinically diagnosed as ADHD.
yeah. And I just always thought I was intense with my emotions. Um, just how I just thought that was like normal, like the narrator in my head or all that. I'm not hearing voices, nothing like that, but like neurodivergence, we have like a narrator going on and it's our voice, but like I always thought that was normal.
Yeah.
I just thought until like they say like the studies they talk about how like mid 20s like is when women really start to show that kind of stuff more. And that's kind of like the time when I went back to college and it was just like I couldn't process things right. I couldn't like my sensory was really messed up. Um it was just like cognitive like function just wasn't like the same. And
Yeah.
it was just like this is weird. Like and then when I finally went back to therapy and I got the help that I needed, it was like a good 2, 3 years before we actually got the diagnosis because I was dealing with like I'm also diagnosed with PMDD if you know what that is.
You said PM what?
PMDD.
What's that?
So it's actually more common than you think, but not a lot of people know about it. So it's premenstrual dysphoria. So imagine like an extreme form of PMS, but like it's the body's like reaction to the rise and fall of hormones when like a woman's about to like have her period. And for me, like it's like I'm suicidal every month, like right before my period. Like I'm having ideations, self-harm urges, like I'm having really bad paranoia. And I just used to think that was crazy PMS. Like it was to the point where like people I was dating in high school, they're like, "You're just about to start your period. You're fine." And then it just got worse and worse. And but we kind of figured that out in therapy. Well, I want to say figure it out, but I have the tools now to help myself. But yeah, in therapy, like we kind of a lot of depression, anxiety symptoms are the same as ADHD symptoms, like forgetfulness, not being able to focus. So we took this like I forget the test was called, but I took like an anxiety test, a depression test, and then an ADHD test. And I tested severe on the anxiety and depression and then like 99.8 on the ADHD. So what my therapist did was we focused on the anxiety and depression because if we can clear that up, improve that, we can see like, okay, well, if that improves and your quality of life improves and all these other things aren't there, then you don't have ADHD. Now, if certain things are still there, you know, and the depression and anxiety is better, and we do this ADHD test again, and it's high, then yeah, you just have ADHD. So I was on a mood stable. We started off with a mood stabilizer, because we tried antidepressants, and I can't remember the name of it, but I went nuts. I went into serotonin shock, which almost killed me,
Mm,
because your body needs serotonin,
yeah.
and I didn't have a serotonin problem. Um, so I took it for like a couple of days, and like I couldn't stop crying, I couldn't eat. I was dropping weight fast. It was bad. So we got off that, and then I started to take Abilify, which is a mood stabilizer, and it changed my life for the better. Like I was not stable back then. I'm also diagnosed with a borderline personality. Um, and that's fun. But I think that's from all the years of being undiagnosed with stuff and just
Trying to find.
dealing with life, but not having the tools, to help myself and just not having awareness of that. And Abilify just truly changed my life. I was able to maintain friendships, stay at a job without wanting to quit or like have a moment. Reactions are really big with borderline. Um, and I tell Zach this all the time. I'm like, I don't know if we would have lasted if I didn't take this. And he always says, "Oh, we would have been fine." I'm like, no, I probably would have gone off the deep end and like broke up with you like 20 times or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, um, it saved my life. It made me, and I'm not on it now, but I was on it for like 3 or 4 years. But it made me have the feet on the ground, basically,
Mm.
like to where I could be stable and help myself, like actually like help myself.
So let me ask
So,
you. So with everything you got going on, right, with ADHD, the borderline personality, PMDD, um, also your sister, having to compress your emotions around your sister and stuff like that. It's only likely that, growing up, people will say things to you, like, about you, or say, like, try to push a narrative onto you. So, like, what's something that, like, growing up, like, people said about you, or like a lie that people, like, formed up around who you were or something like that, and that you had to, like, kind of like, you realized it was a lie and you had to overcome it? Like, what's something like that?
I had to deal with a lot of like, hmm, when I was growing up, it wasn't as bad. It's when I went to middle school, I guess, when it got bad. But I learned middle school was pretty ruthless. Um, and I only because when I was born in Fort Worth, and so I moved after like third grade. No, I moved after second grade, and so we moved to Florida, and it was all kind of fine and dandy, whatever. It was just kind of I don't know. I was like a bro growing up. I always played football. And boys they don't when you're young, like you just want to skateboard, you want to play football. I just kind of always played outside. I didn't really get into video games until much later. But I didn't really like I socialized, but it was just playing games outside. It wasn't until when I moved from Jacksonville, Florida to Maryland in sixth grade, because in Florida school system, sixth grade is still elementary. So I don't know if it's like a change of building that makes you change in your hormones and all that going through puberty. But when I moved to Maryland and I went to middle school, that's when it got crazy.
What was so
Like,
crazy about middle school?
oh my gosh, like people had opinions on everything. And I remember the first day of school, like, and I was super naive growing up, little church girl. didn't didn't pay no mind. I was always in the church. In the South, you go to church on Wednesdays too. We went Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, and whatever other extra activity they had, and just hung out with the boys. And since I was a bro, I hung out with guys. So when I went to this middle school in Maryland, you didn't do that as a female. If you did that, like, oh, you're like a whore or something.
Yeah.
And I just remember coming home and I didn't know what that word meant. So I'm like, Mom, what's a whore? Like I didn't know what curse words were. I didn't know. I was super naive, just super innocent. So middle school, that was like a culture shock of like girls don't do this, girls don't do that, or you don't wear this, like everyone's starting to wear like certain brands, and me, I'm wearing like a Nintendo shirt, like skateboarder shirts, and you just didn't do that. So I started to like kind of conform into that because I didn't know. Like, I just wanted to have friends. And I didn't seem to make any my first like year in Maryland because we were in another part in Maryland before my dad got promoted. And then we moved to another part in Maryland, not too far away, but he worked at a different base. So, and that was still ruthless too. But I was like, man, like, it's just a change of building. Like, like, what is this? And that's kind of like when things started to like happen in my household. Um, Not to like go too deep into it, but my sister identifies as they and them, and I live in a Southern Baptist household, so that just kind of made
How
a
does
different
that
dynamic.
work? How does that work? Being in a Southern Baptist home with a child who
Ugh.
identifies as they, them, and all that.
Yeah, back then, she came out as a lesbian because I think non-binary wasn't talked about back then. I'm not too sure, but they came out as lesbian. I didn't know anything. I didn't understand anything. Um, so it chaotic. We'll go with that word. Chaotic, and me being the middle child just kind of it was rough.
Wait, you have another sibling?
No, just the middle of that.
Oh, okay. I was like, hold on.
Yeah, yeah. I know what you mean though. Yeah, I didn't mean to say like yeah,
So
but
let me ask you this: with your sister coming out, and then the type of the dynamic of the household you had, um, did you get any flack from that? Like, did you have to have like sit down conversations as well? Because like, oh, well, we got one daughter who's identifies as lesbian, so let's just make sure we talk to her, Allison, now before she decides to go off the deep end, quote unquote,
it was more like these are the expectations from you
to date a
type
boy.
of thing. Like I was the Christian daughter, so I had to yeah.
I'm sorry for
So
laughing.
that's why a lot of my emotions were suppressed because and it was really hard like growing up with that. And I don't really talk about it online. This is actually probably the first time I ever talked about it. But it was really hard because if you just had like not even siding with one side, it was just more of like giving grace to one side while the other person was complaining. It was like automatically you're on their side,
Yeah,
vice versa. When I'm just I don't know, like I grew up respect, kindness. I don't understand it. It is what it is. Like I'm young. Like I'm 11 years old. Don't really I don't really understand,
yeah, yeah. Let me ask you.
you
So
know.
you grew up Christian, right? And you're still Christian now,
Hmm.
correct? Did you ever go through a point where you kind of like veered off, for a while, just kind of like went to see what the other side looked like?
Yeah, and not so much of like that thought of like wanting to go off the other side.
Just happened.
It just kind of like happened, but I mean, temptations and things like that are really easy. So like when I left home for college, first of all, I only wanted to go to college so I can get out of the home. Like I've always been kind of the independent child, and I just wanted to be free. Like I wanted to figure out what I liked and disliked and trying to get out from the helicopter. Like much love to my parents, much love, but I needed to figure out who I was. And it's kind of funny because I told my mom that not too long ago, and she was like, "Well, look how it turned out." And I'm thinking to myself, well, I wouldn't have found my husband. I wouldn't be here right now, probably. But college was rough because I just ended up partying hard. Uh, I was getting blacked out drunk like every night, and it wasn't even like in the beginning. It wasn't like I want to go get drunk. It was just more like I want to socialize. I
Yeah.
want to be a part of this. This is what everyone's doing, and I was on the track and field team for my college, and then I left it because I wanted to join a sorority. And just because I wanted to be one of the girls, I've always been a bro, so I was like, I want to be one of the girls. Well, that was a terrible mistake because all they did was party, and I got into a lot of tomfoolery, a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol, just a lot of drama to where like I was just not in a good crowd. Like, and it don't matter if you're a believer or non-believer, but I was around people that just they were good buddies, not friends, like
Good to
you
have fun.
did you yeah, you did drugs well together. Like,
I'm sorry.
but it's the truth. Like, I
Honestly,
mean,
you're
you got like
hilarious.
it's like you have people that you can go out with and you drink well together, you have fun, but do you hang out in the
Outside.
middle of the week? You just drink well together. You do drugs well together. Like, and everyone wants to be around that, if that's your thing. And I hung out with such wrong groups and I kept trying to like fit in type of thing, and I didn't really like feel guilt for a while because everyone still knew me as the Christian girl.
Mm.
So it was like subconsciously my mind was probably like, well, they still associate me as a Christian,
So I'm
so
good.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
So what
So
brought
it
you back to
was
Christ?
um honestly, like, as you notice, I'm like Shrek. I got an ogre with layers, like the onion thing he does in the movie.
Yeah.
Um so right before I left college, I basically got kicked out of college. Because I partied so hard, I didn't go to classes. It was bad. And I came back home for a year. I got like academically dismissed. So I came back home and I just I will say like, and I still talk to this woman too. The pastor during the time, his wife, she was really awesome, and she just kind of like took me for who I was like at that time, and she just the amount of grace and love I got from her, like, and it wasn't like a come to my house every week so I can judge you. It was just let's just have a little Bible study, and we went over David, how like King David, he wanted I forget names, but he wanted so and so's wife, so he got him killed and that, and just kind of that story of doing some really bad things and coming back to Christ, type of thing. And we went over that. I'd come over her house every week. We just have dinner, little cute Bible study, just her and I just hanging out. And it was just like I didn't feel judged, and she really helped me like get my feet back on the ground at the time, and I was going back to church and volunteering for like vacation Bible school, and I kind of did all like it was like I was doing all the same things I was doing in high school, still living with my parents. But it wasn't until like I came back to college and probably like a few months later in that semester right before Christmas break, um I'd actually like attempted to take my life, and it didn't work out too well. I had suicide ideations of driving off the mountain because we're in the Appalachian Mountains. So there was always this spot I'd have ideations about, intrusive thoughts, stuff like that. And I think I was manic because I can't really remember much in the moment. I just kind of like I just remember I kind of snapped into it. But basically like got pulled over for my tail light right at the spot where I was going to drive off.
That's God.
Yeah. And I just, the guy pulled me over, just told me my tail light. Any cop that pulls you over and you're like, oh shit, like, let me get my stuff out. Like, it's like a script you're trying to follow, and I'm great at scripts. So, I'm freaking out, like, oh my gosh, the lights, like, and I'm getting it, I'm terrified, and I'm a college student, and cops hate college kids in a college town. So I'm thinking, oh, he's about to give me a ticket or something dumb. And he just gave me a warning and let me go, and I just drove back home, and that's kind of like was when it was God. Like, I renewed my faith through him, and um just kind of been more on it lately, consistent. So,
Um, with that spot that you were talked about, where you say you drove by, I can kind of relate because when I was going through like a depressed time, for like probably like a year or two, there was a spot here in town where on I-5, I wouldn't say a spot. It's just like when I get to a certain section, like it's for some reason, it's like between, you don't know the streets, but like 38th and the 512 exit, which is like probably like, let's say probably like just say 4 or 5 miles. It's kind of close to getting like to where I will go home. And I don't know why, like back in like 2022, 2023, like I would just always have this thought, like I could just crash my car into this and life would be so much better for like everybody
yeah.
else, me, and I won't have to feel this way and all this stuff. Do you think that that's what was going on with you? It's just like, for some odd reason, like you would just have it only pop up when you get in that area, but besides that, the rest of your life you'd be fine?
Um, I struggled with intrusive ideation thoughts, but that particular one, it was always when I would drive past it. And I drove past it all the time. It was a popular highway. I mean, it was a rural town, so you only had like two main roads. And I always passed it on work or just going down to the next town over, which was 10 minutes away, going down the mountain. Um, so it was hard. Like, and even after that moment, it was, I don't know, it felt like I was like numbing myself every time I drive past it after the fact, because it was a scary moment, because I was like, wow, I almost did that. Like, but my life like really changed after I made that failed attempt, because oddly enough, I had joined. So I was there for like winter break. I was gonna go home for like a day or two for Christmas, but I was working like at Big Lots or something like that, retail. So I had to come back. And I wasn't living in the dorms either. So I had a place to stay. But so I was gonna stay home for a few days and then come back so I could work, blah blah blah. And so the school's gym was gonna be closed, just for winter break. And so I was like, well, I need to join something, like, and I don't want to go back to Planet Fitness. So I joined this gym, and I went like one time, didn't see anyone, but I went late at night. And then so the night, well, I get the day after I had my failed attempt, I'm sitting there like, what do I do? Like, what do you do with your life after a failed attempt? You don't, no one tells you that, because that, you know. So I just kind of like told myself, like, you just need to do your regular routine. Just just go to the gym. Just go to the gym. You don't know what else to do. What else are you gonna do? You don't have work today. Like, school's not going on. Just go to the gym. And that's where I kind of met my first powerlifting crew.
Oh.
Like, where I was bench pressing. I was tiny, tiny then. I was bench pressing like 85 pounds. Failed it miserably, and this big guy that we called a Terminator, he just came right over me and just grabbed it with one hand. And there was no girls at that gym like that, so they were all like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm Allison. Like, I power lift." And they're like, "Oh." And that's it was part like where I met Zach as well. We weren't dating at the time when we first met, but just that whole crew, and they were just kind of like, well, because it was about to be Christmas and I was about to go home, so they were like, well, we meet here every day at 4 o'clock. So like, if you want to come train with us, you can. We're just here every day at 4 o'clock. So I was like, okay, and then I just kind of
What year was this?
um, it'd be 8 years
That's great.
since December. So yeah, in December it'll be 8 years since then.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Uh,
It
be-
doesn't feel like it.
the reason why I say it's insane is because I'm explaining. But first, before this interaction, were you already into powerlifting?
Yes and no. I was trying to figure it out. I got back into the gym. Like when I came back home from college, I had gained like a lot of weight from college. And I was always like fit. But then as I got into the drinking, the drugs and all that, I stopped going to the gym. I stopped doing sports. So I gained a lot of weight. And I was like 180 something, but with no muscle mass. Like it was not good. Like it was like if I had a dad bod type thing. Um, but I came back home. I went to Planet Fitness and I tried to do squat, bench, deadlift on a Smith machine. Like I don't, but it was cheap. Planet Fitness, I wanted they have like those two different memberships, like I
Uh,
guess white card and black card,
yeah,
where like the white card is just like the $10 a month. And then the black card was like you get the massage chairs, the tanning bed, and all that. And I
yes,
was like, well, I'm gonna get that one because I'm gonna start getting tan, like because I was pasty. So I was like, I wanted the massage chair, I want that, and you can go to any other Planet Fitness with that one. So I was like, well, 21.99 a month, that's a steal. I'm just gonna do this. And then when I came back to school, I went to that gym and I just kind of did the movements. I didn't really know what I was doing. I knew how to do the movements a little. Like I always knew how to squat, but it was like deadlift and bench was like the hard one. So I was just like online a lot. And then I followed like a little program online. And then uh probably like after my first meet, that's when I actually like kind of got serious, I guess. I bombed out of my first meet, so
I got a
um
funny story about. Everybody keeps telling me that I need to do on an episode, tell my first comp story because everybody thinks it's hilarious. Because you gotta remember, like I came from, well, you don't know, but I came from bodybuilding,
mhm.
and I'm not gonna tell the whole story, but I'll just say this: that things weren't fully explained to me. Like I knew how to squat, bench,
Oh,
and deadlift. I didn't really know about commands. Um, I didn't know about chalk and baby powder. I didn't know
mhm.
about none of that. I didn't know
Oh
about
yeah.
I didn't know about I'll tell you this fun part. Everybody thinks this is hilarious. And you have to watch one of the episodes to see when I'm about to record a powerlifting episode, powerlifting meets mental health episode. And on that one, I'm gonna tell the story, the whole story. But basically, I did not know that you had to put your openers in kilograms.
Oh,
So I'll just say this: my opening squat was supposed to be 450 pounds, but it was 450 kilos. And when I'm just gonna tell you this part because it's hilarious. I literally was standing in line, and I'm in flight D, and so it's all like kind of like bigger guys and stronger people, whatever. And I'm looking, and I'm like, they're squatting 600. Like, why are they going in front of me? Like, so when it gets to me, I'm standing there, and I just see the spotters. They're just putting these plates on. I'm just like, I'm looking at the thing like, it's my name. It's like, I don't know what's going on. And so I'm just watching, and then they say platform ready, and I'm like, okay. So I walk up there and I look at the weights. I'm like, it's like, okay. Then I, do the fist bump to the spotters, and then
oh my
the back spotter says to
gosh.
me, he says, "You got this?" And I said, well, "We're gonna see." And then so I grabbed the bar, and then you know how like when you're strong enough to lift a lift, you can slide the weight.
Yeah.
The adjust, it was like kind of off, and I was like trying to slide it, and I was like, "Well, move it." And I was just like, I literally physically what he did. I was like, counted. I was like. Once I go up under the bar, the front judge looks at me and she says she like did something to signal to the other ones that she's like kind of like pausing it for a second. They stopped my clock and then she asked me, she says, everything okay? I was like, no. I was like, I'm just trying to figure out why they got so much weight. I was like, I'm just supposed to be squatting 450 pounds. And and the lady says, she says, say what? I said, I don't know. I was like, I go to the gym all the time. This 450 pounds looks totally different than in the gym. And she was like, 450 pounds. And then she looks up at the screen. She says, oh, baby. She's like, uh, did you give your openers in kilograms or pounds? I was like, well, pounds. I don't know kilo. I was training in a commercial gym. I had never even been to a power,
Yeah.
never even seen a kilo. These plates when I was warming up, I didn't even know how to warm up. because I didn't know what each weight was. I was like 25. It feels like a freaking like 50 or 60 pound. I thought it was 25 pounds. I'm like, this is weird. And so she laughs and she says, that's the problem. She's like, you got 450 kilos on there. She was like, I'm looking at you and I'm looking at the weight, and I'm just like, I don't know. And I was like, yeah, I would have died.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I would have
Oh,
died. But
yeah.
I gotta tell the whole story one day on there because you guys are probably gonna laugh. But let me ask
Yeah.
you, so before getting into powerlifting, before becoming married, returning back to your roots, Christianity and all that, how would you describe? I know you said that you were like a party, like you were big in party and stuff like that, but how would you describe you before that, and how have you evolved into the person you are now?
Like before partying and all
No,
that.
no, no, no. Before becoming a powerlifting coach, before becoming a
Oh
wife.
gosh. Um, Lost and insecure and just kind of I don't I don't know what a good word is for it. Like I did a lot of things in the dark, like not so good things. Like I did a lot of things in the shadows that like you'd never find out type of thing because I could get away with it, you know? Like I wasn't like super popular in the sorority fraternity like realm of things, but I was known, well known and not for terrible things. Like um I was dating someone for like 2.5 years while like in a sorority and I was kind of well known for that being like that couple, but I was just I don't know, like I wouldn't say I started drama, but I antagonized it. But I'm a very like confrontational, blunt person. So like for me, like if there's some nonsense going on, I'm gonna confront it head on. And I learned girls don't like that, at least in college. So to me that came off like, oh, I'm rude, but like I'm not fake either. But I don't like to say like, oh, I'm blunt. Like I don't like that because it has that negative connotation, but I'm just kind of straight to the point. But I don't know any other way. I don't like tiptoeing around things. I've just I don't know, like I was really aggressive back then. And like to now, like um and kind of like growing up too, I was just kind of like an angry person, but that's because I didn't really know how to like get my emotions out or to communicate my emotions. So a lot of it, sucking it up type of thing and withholding it. And now like I have really good awareness of it. And it's to thank, like obviously my husband, he's a big part of it as well. Because people want to talk about, love makes marriage last. I don't think it's love that makes a marriage last. It's grace.
Hmm.
Like grace is everlasting because no matter what, like, yeah, that's your best friend, you're married, but like forgiveness and grace is going to be something that you're going to have to do a million times in marriage, like even for the small things, because you can love someone all you want, but like if it just ain't working, like it just sometimes it just doesn't work out. Love is not enough
Yeah.
type of thing. And like the amount of grace that I've gotten from my husband, when I was in a time, trying to figure out my toxic traits, and trying to improve myself and like my reactions to things. Because I was not a good person back then, and I wouldn't say he like made me go into therapy, nothing like that, but it was kind of like we started dating and I was like, I got a really good man here. Like, and I'm about to graduate college and things aren't getting better. My self-harm urges, I had struggled with self-harm since like 11 years old. Things just weren't getting better. And it was to the point where I felt like I was going to fall back into like a really bad cycle again of who I used to be type of thinking, like just the intrusive thoughts, ideations. And so I was on, since I was too old to be on my dad's insurance, I had to go on state insurance because insurance is expensive. Adulting is expensive. So luckily with Maryland, I was able to get on state insurance. And it took a while, but I got a therapist. And really like my therapist truly like helped me. And it takes a while to find a good therapist. I will say that, like it's hard to find a good therapist for you. Everyone's a little bit different. I've had bad therapists too. But my therapist, like, she really like challenged my logic. Um, I felt like I wasn't, and not even felt, I was told. My therapist and psychiatrist would always say, like, you're not textbook. You know, you work out, you eat healthy, you know, you go outside, you have a great relationship, you know. You kind of like have all the right things, but you still feel this way,
Hmm.
you know. So I wasn't textbook. So it was like my therapist had to question my logic of things and really like deep dive into like why is my logic the way that it is? Like why is my brain wired the way that it is? And how can we rewire it? And it took time. Therapy is not going to feel good the first month. It's just not.
Yeah,
People think, "Oh, I tried it, doesn't work for me." It takes time. It takes a lot of time. I went to her for like 3 or 4 years, and I want to say that last year being together, it was like coming into sessions and I kind of just look at her like, I don't really know what to talk about. I feel okay.
that's good. That's
Like,
progress.
yeah,
Bro,
yeah. And my psychiatrist, she was really good too. I mean, psychiatry appointments aren't as long as therapy appointments, but she was very much like on it. She always had students in her office, and she'd always ask before our sessions, like, "Are you okay with having students here, to observe?" Because they were, I guess, doing like their clinical hours, something like that. And I'm like, "Yeah, go right ahead. Like, I'm an open book." And then like there was one time she told me one session and they weren't in the room, and she was like, "There's a reason why I always have students when you come in." And I'm like, "Well, why is that? Why am I special?" And she's like, "Because they need to see the real world, that like not everyone is a textbook,
yeah.
And therapy just really helped, like, a lot. Like it just I didn't feel like growing up I didn't have anyone to talk to, about my feelings, the things that were going on at home, just I had friends growing up, but it was hard to talk about it because I didn't know how to communicate how I was feeling. And if I did have like feelings growing up, it just kind of like was this big explosion. I didn't know how to
Look,
calmly talk
so
about it.
so I know you said that therapy provided a space for you to like, one, like you said, be heard, and to give you a voice. What's like the biggest takeaway that you've got from therapy?
Um, Shoot, there's so many. Probably like sometimes, at least for me, like sometimes your emotions will take you into another reality, but
Mm,
that doesn't mean that reality is valid.
explain.
you know with like borderline personality, we have a lot of emotions, like, and they're all reactive. And for me, like with the mixture of borderline and ADHD and all that, it feels like I have multiple Allisons in my head, but they're all different emotions,
Okay.
you know and how I like describe it is like they're all in their own separate glass rooms, and they all have their own emotions, they all have their own truth.
Mm.
So I have to figure out which one kind of fits the reality better.
How do you cope with that? Like dealing with that? Because that just seems like it'll be confusing.
It is. Honestly, like having that self-awareness, being slow to your reactions, I think, because I used to be very quick and not think about what I said or like how I would explode. And that's taken a lot of time, like, and a lot of self-love, like real self-love. Like self-love is a lot to do with kind of picking apart the bad things about yourself, but not to the point where you're like, wow, I'm such a bad human. It's more so of like, why do I do this? Like, why do I keep self sabotaging myself? And how can I stop that? Because self awareness is great, but also it's a curse as well, because you can go on that other spectrum of it of like, I'm such a terrible person.
Yeah.
I suck. Or you can go the other route in which I'm, always figuring out and refining of like, how can I do this better? How can I be better next time? How can I react better? What could I say better? And it's like I said, it's a blessing and a curse because once you start like having really good self-awareness of yourself, then you start having good self-awareness of everyone else, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. Now let me ask you too. Also, there's always things that, as a powerlifting coach, as a mom, as a friend, um, there's things that you're gonna be we give to people, and they're almost like maladaptive, like they're ineffective. In your opinion, like what's something that you've tried that's like, to like deal with the different things you got going on, from ADHD to, PMDD, just all the different things. Like what's something that's like been really, you realize, I guess, for you is super maladaptive, and you just like you would never suggest it to somebody else?
Like something that works for me, but probably wouldn't work for someone else.
No, no, no. Something that's like for you is maladaptive, meaning like it was ineffective. Like you tried this route, this medicine, or whatever this case may be,
Um,
and you would not suggest it to somebody else.
uh, hmm, guess tough love to an extent,
You wouldn't
you
suggest
know.
tough love to nobody else?
I mean, to an extent, like there's boundaries to it. There's a point where like you need to feel the tough love for a second, like to yourself, but then you don't need to stay there.
Yeah.
But I guess another thing would be and this, I mean, I'm not against it. So I was like a pothead for like 10 years,
Mm,
and I'm not against it. It is medicine in my opinion. It's helped a lot of great things, and I'm actually in May, I was 1 year sober from
congrats.
it. Thank you. But it's just like after I stopped smoking it, and around the end time of me like trying to like diet down, like I don't know, like it just kind of like gave me a lot of clarity
Mm,
in the things that I needed. Like I was like suppressing, it kind of like dulled me into like my emotions as well, which is something I already like struggled with.
mm.
So it let me really like experience what the now felt like. So I just tell people like, I'm for it, but make sure that's use it as a tool, not your saving grace. It's not water, you know?
So basically, you're
So
saying like you would suggest somebody coping with whatever they got going on by using, like some kind of substance or anything like that. Uh,
yeah, I
just
mean,
kind of take the head off.
if you have to, like in a moment, if you're having like a moment, you know, like I wouldn't say life or death, but like you are a threat to yourself, a threat to someone else, and it's getting really, really bad. Um, I'd recommend it because it can mellow you out and keep you safe, to where you could, be with someone or like just be in a safe environment,
Yeah.
for yourself if you are endangerment to yourself. Because that's what I did use it for the longest time. When I had really bad like self-harm urges and I was trying to like resist, it would just kind of like I'd still have the urges, but I'd just be so mellow to where it was just like whatever,
Yeah.
But you don't need to rely on a substance for every small thing that's happened in your life, if that makes
What
sense.
do you believe in self-care?
Yeah.
What's self-care look like for you?
Um, if we're self-care, if you like talk, I guess you could talk about like the physical part aspect, showering every day.
Uh,
Like, and I know that's like crazy, but when I was like super depressed and I like left college and all that, I wasn't showering. I didn't want to shower. And then if I did go in the shower, and like a lot of people will probably resonate with this, but like I wouldn't actually like shower. I'd go in the water, but I wouldn't bathe,
mm,
and that's also like why I love powerlifting in the gym because it gave me a reason to shower. Like I had to shower or I was gonna stink. Like, and I don't like stinking. That's like one of my biggest pet peeves, stinks. So I was like, well, I can't have a pet peeve about stink if I stink. So like like I gotta shower, like just taking care of like personal hygiene, like just taking care for me personally, like as I've gotten older, I'm 31, but that's not old, but it'd be showing sometimes. Skincare, stuff like that. And it sounds so small, but like it's such like a nice feeling when doing it. Just little things like that. Self-care. But also like the other things in life, like making sure your dishes are clean. so you can prepare the next meal, so you can eat again, or just kind of doing like small house chores that people don't think make a big difference. But like for me personally, I have to set myself up for success for the next day, or I'm just not gonna do it. Or
Yeah.
like it's like another obstacle I gotta go through, if that makes sense. Like, you know. So to me, it's just kind of like checking my boxes and like setting up today for a successful tomorrow. Sounds cringe, but it works for me.
You,
So
how important do you think having a strong support system is?
extremely,
Now,
extremely. Hmm?
with that being said, right? Once again, with everything you got going on, right? Um, for a friend of yours, for your matter of fact, let's just ask this: for your husband, how does he become a support for you? Like, how does he show support for you in the things you got going on mentally?
Um, so like first of all, like he listens, you know, but I also like take the time to like educate him as well to like, hey, if this is like happening or if I'm starting to do these certain behavior patterns, like I need you to watch this, I need you to watch that. I think it's really important if you have like some issues, mental health issues, like and you're aware of it. I think it's really important to inform your partner as well, like, hey, I have this going on, like just educate them on things that you need. Like if I'm having like a moment and I need to like ground myself, to me, sensory is really big. So like if he can tell I'm having like a moment and I need to ground myself, he'll go and grab a doll and I can just like squish it, you know. Or if we're like out in public and like sensory is getting really bad, like high pitched noises and it's like making me irritable, overstimulation, he'll like kind of put his hand on me, like on my knee and just kind of like
Right.
rub me so I can focus on that. Um, and really, like for me, like he doesn't just listen, he applies it as well. And that's really important because I mean, listening is important, but I think listening is easy. Like it's actually applying it and remembering it, and kind of like for him, like my mental health is really important for him because I mean, my happiness is what he cares about, um, and he's just always been probably like my biggest supporter. Like he doesn't really always understand it, but he's just going with it type of thing. Like he's just like, okay, like if that's just what you need, that's how you are, then okay, you know.
Would you
And he
say
was a
that?
big supporter.
Go ahead. Sorry, sorry.
I was just gonna say he was a big supporter of therapy. So
Okay. I was just gonna ask, in your household, like how do you guys, like discuss and like bring up and talk about like mental health?
well I don't like pushing things under the rug, so I just straight up say it. And he's my husband, he's a quiet guy. He's quiet and he's a man of not so many words. So sometimes I have to fish it out of him if he's like having a moment, but that's fine because it's probably because like in his life it's kind of like the gender role of like I'm a man and I need to be strong. I need to, like so he has a hard time talking about it, but once he starts talking, he's good. But I'm pretty open about my mental health, and it's to the point where like I'm really aware of it. So if I'm having like a moment or like a day where I can just tell like I'm a little short, like irritable, I'll message him and be like, "Hey, can you please be patient with me today?" And he'll be like, "Okay, I can do that." And then I don't know. It's like the moment I text that, it's like this stress of like not gonna make like my problem go away, but like the stress of like I don't want to like react on my husband and like put anger out on him over something not on him because I have my days where I'm overstimulated or like my PMDD is really bad and I just have to warn him like hey, like please be patient. And for I think just telling him that it makes me feel better and it's like this comfort. And I usually don't have a moment. I've been pretty good. Like I haven't had a moment in quite a while just because like I'm in a place now like mentally where I can kind of draw myself back and think more, be in prayer. Um, have a good support system around me. And I think that's really important because the people that you go to, like, they can influence you on like just going down a wrong path of like how to think about something, you know. I'm never like if a friend comes to me with a problem, I'm never the friend that's like, well, F that. You know, I'm the friend that you don't want to go to if you don't want a solution. Like, I'm the friend that's like, how can we solve this?
Yeah.
Hey, how can we fix this? You know, and I go to people like that, you know. I want those kind of people, and I keep my circle very small. You know, in college, I had a very big circle, and everyone knew everything. And so, as I've gotten older, you know, my dad kind of said it best. You know, as you get older, you realize you have a lot of like pals and buddies, and fewer friends.
Hmm.
You know, and it's no hate to the pals and buddies, nothing like that. But like at the end of the day, like there's a reason why like you keep your inner circle kind of close, like and small.
Yeah.
You know, it's at least for like the big stuff, you know, like you don't need to go to everyone and their mother like for advice because you're gonna get all kinds of things. Like, and not everyone, I wouldn't say the best intentions, but they just don't have like sometimes like where they're at in their life and how they would react. Maybe something completely different than how you would react, you know? Like everyone's at a different part of their life. So,
I forgot to ask you this earlier, but when did mental health become like, I guess you say relevant to you? Like when is it something you recognize that was important and that you need to be addressed, even if you didn't like bring it up to other people, just within yourself? Like when was that and what caused you to recognize it?
probably when I mean, mental health was kind of like a thing with my older sister growing up, but for my own personal self and actually understanding, like, oh, this is kind of important. Before I got kicked out of school, when it was like a few weeks before the semester ended, right before finals, and I was finding out that I was like failing. And I kind of had my mental breakdown, having to call my parents and letting them know, like, I'm failing school. Like, you know, I think I was more worried about telling my parents versus the actual thing, failing school. So when I went, I was not doing right. During that time, I was getting blacked out drunk, of course, but like I would like be blacked out drunk and like start calling like my best friend at home during the time, and I would like I don't remember telling her, but I would like call her and she wouldn't answer, but I'd leave like voicemails of just like I don't want to be here anymore. I hate my life, this and that, you know, type of thing. So when she started telling me I was doing that, I was like, well, like, maybe I should go see a therapist. I don't know what's going on. And I was also still like struggling with self harm, not telling anyone about it. Like, no one really knew about my self harm until like 20s. And I was doing it since 11. And I remember I went to therapy, and gosh, like, this is one of those bad therapy stories. I go to the therapist and I'm saying, I'm having issues, like, I'm hurting myself. And we started talking about like suicide thoughts. And the therapist literally said, well, it's good that you're cutting yourself because it's keeping you alive. Yeah. So I didn't go back.
I would not
I
either.
was,
I
I
would have
was
reported
like,
him.
I was like, I didn't know much of mental health, but when I left there, I was like, I don't think that was right, and I do not feel any better. Like, yeah, it was pretty bad. And I don't know if it's like you got low budget university and you got bad therapists, but I don't even know where a therapist would even think that or just a person in general. Like, yeah. So I didn't go back to therapy for quite some time. But that was when I was like starting to realize like, oh, mental health is like something's not right, you know? And that's when I started to realize, okay, it's all this alcohol I'm drinking. You know, granted I had a lot of the undiagnosed stuff, but like I was doing a lot of drugs, I was drinking a lot binge, you know, not I wasn't like binge eating, but I was a typical college kid, you know, like where I wouldn't eat much or I would eat like a whole pizza or like I'd be drunk and binge eat everything in the fridge. And so I just had a lot of like bad things in my system. Like I wasn't taking care of my body to where like when I did go back home, went to the gym, I started eating better and healthy, it was like my mind. It wasn't, I mean, it was still like there, but it just wasn't like as bad, you know, like I wasn't having alcohol and that's a depressant and, you know, all these high sugary foods that make me like crash. Like food is medicine at the end of the day. Like I know when I'm eating a lot of processed food, going out to eat, you know, that's kind of like when my depression and anxiety is like kind of there
Yeah,
more, and eating better, like I fully believe like food is medicine. Like, I don't think food heals everything in this world, but what you put in your body is what you're gonna get out
yeah.
and feel. So
It's like if you put shitty gas in your car, you can't expect it to keep riding good forever. You know.
yeah.
Um, how has your perspective on mental health changed from when you first were, like aware of it to like how it is now?
Um, Kind of like how I said, people are at different parts of their life, and I think everyone has like their truth of things are valid with because of where they're at in life, and that's like kind of their where their like ceiling of knowledge is at the time. Like I feel like as I've gotten older, I'm like refining it, like when being in your 30s is ain't the same as being in your 20s.
Mhm.
Like, and you get older, you get wiser, type of thing. And it's so true. Like, you know, um, it's just, I feel like, I don't know, like I'm like refining it to where it's like a deeper meaning of things, I guess. Like, I can kind of look even deeper. I was always kind of like a deep thinker all my life, but like now it's like I'm really like getting deep into things, which is like I said before, it's like a blessing and a curse, but it's good to be able to rewire your brain. It's hard. It's growing pains, but I think everyone you're just if you're just people are at all different places in their lives and their ceiling is just their ceiling at the time because of the experiences that they have, the environment that they're in, the people that they're around, you know. Everyone's kind of at a different place with their mental health and awareness of that.
I could agree. I could agree. Do you believe that every person experiences trauma?
I guess you'd have to define trauma.
I feel like trauma is anything that you go this is not no textbook. This is just me personally. I
Yeah,
feel like trauma is anything that you go through that causes a reaction, a permanent reaction to it, right? So, like for instance, if you like this is trauma, but it's positive trauma. Like for instance, like as a kid, if you burn your finger on the stove, you know not to keep, you're not gonna touch it again. It's trauma that caused you to learn something. So I call that positive. That for me, that's how anything that causes you to change your thought process, how you thought about that situation, or have a chemical reaction to it. Like, for instance, like I feel like all dads cause trauma on their kids indirectly because, like, I look at my kids and their mom will talk to them, and this is really the thing. Like, he's two right now. One of my sons is two right now, and this is his biggest thing. Like, his mom will be talking to him. I'll be watching TV, would have just walked in the room or something, have no idea what's going on. And the whole time I'll hear her saying, "Don't look to your dad." But as soon as I look at him, he will literally do exactly what she was telling him to do. And I feel like that's a form of trauma because he knows that I'm not going to play with him, you know.
yeah,
And I'm not here to say that his mom's going to play with him, but moms are nurturers, like
oh yeah,
you're much softer spoken, you're typically smaller in stature, you're typically the one that shows the child the most love throughout the day. So they associate all those nice things with the mom, and then the dad, unfortunately, usually comes in. He's usually quick to correct you on something, and his correction is usually a little bit more stern than the mom's. He's usually
yeah,
bigger, deeper voice, all those things. So I don't necessarily think that it's a trauma that the father inflicted, unless he's just all out just beating the child. But just a typical father, I just feel like that's a trauma right there, right? Um,
yeah,
so with that definition, would you believe that everybody goes through trauma?
yeah.
All right,
I
so
think some people just don't even know that it's trauma
for sure.
because
Uh,
some behaviors can be just like normalized,
mm.
like because that's just how things are, you
But
know.
let me ask you this then. With that being said, what's something that you've been through that you thought was normal, and then later on realized that no, that's some form of trauma that I've experienced.
Mm,
You walked right into that one.
no. Um, can you repeat the question?
What's some form of trauma that you went through that in the moment you believed it to just be like normal, but then after as time passed or you got older, you realized that that was actually some form of trauma that was something traumatic that happened to you.
Mm, I guess an overall, like a general statement of it is just like when my older sister came out and the reaction of things.
Mm,
Like, and I just kind of went numb to it. And then as I gotten older, I kind of like, and I got out of the house and I went to therapy. It was like I was unraveling it all, like processing it finally. Sometimes it takes me a moment to like when something happens, it's crazy. Sometimes something happens and it just kind of goes over my head. And then like the next day or even a month or a year later, I process it and I'm like, that wasn't okay.
yeah.
Like, and so I think as I got older and when I was in therapy, things that were just like sad and just like behaviors, no abuse, nothing like that. Like, let me get that out. Like, nothing like that. But just like how like behaviors, words, and how things were just done, you
Mm.
know, just weren't okay in my personal opinion and kind of like shaped who I was because there was a lot of nights growing up where I just sat on the staircase and listening to arguments and just a lot of crying and yelling and me being the kid that I'm not in this like and I'm just trying I was 11, 12 years old, kind of about to go through puberty, I'm going to high school, like a lot was going on, not knowing understanding that it was a lot going on. So it just like it was a good time in my life where I like went numb, like, and I didn't really like understand the depth of it until I went to therapy and kind of like talked about it so nonchalantly. My therapist was like, "Hold on," like, so that'd probably be it.
All right, I got two last questions for you, and then I'll let you get out of here, okay? First one, let me revise that question actually. What is mental health? Like when you think of mental health, like what's the first three words that pop up, and what do those words mean to you?
Oh, the first three words. Um, I don't know. The first word that came to mind, I don't know why it came because I never say this word. Rejoice
Mm,
for some reason, like rejoicing in like other people's wins in mental health.
okay.
Um, just because I feel like I don't know, like that was kind of like the first word. Like I'm always rooting for people in their mental health wins, even if it's like showering that day or doing something so small like cleaning up all the cups in their room. Like, that's a win, and it might seem small to some people, but like it might
That's
have taken
major.
a lot of energy for them to do
Yeah.
that. Another word I guess would be relentless.
Mm.
It's probably my favorite word. Um, just always striving to like I guess striving to like always feel better, do better, for yourself, your mental. Um, and then I guess the third word would be I'm drawing a blank. I guess just mindfulness.
Ooh, I got that.
Um, yeah, mindfulness, being mindful of your mind. Um, a lot of people don't really know what's going on in their brain.
Yeah.
They don't really understand why they think that the way that they think. They just think that's just who I am, which is not the best way to think of things. So,
All right, so last question. This is gonna be a kind of tough one, maybe. But you've done well, so I think you'll be fine. Obviously, the chemical, just let alone just our physical makeup, but the chemical makeup is all different between men and women, right? So, what advice would you give to a man, and what advice would you give to a woman that might be battling with suicidal ideations, depression, anxiety, different things you might be going through? Just somebody who's battling and really at that point where they're just like kind of like you and like me, how we got that spot where we're just like one day, we're planning it out. they're at that point, what advice would you give to that man or that woman?
I guess like what comes to mind, it's kind of like a conjoined thing of like men, like it's okay to feel how you feel, like feel the emotions. Like I think it's more of a man to be more of a man to like actually get your emotions out. If you need to cry, let it, let it happen. You need to let how you feel happen. But women, you don't need to weaponize that.
Mm.
Like, if you're in a relationship with a man and they show their emotions and then I kind of see it a lot, they weaponize it. But it happens both ways. Like I will say that it happens both ways. But I just see that a lot more, because women will tell men like you need to be a man. But it's like it's why men are silent and why there's actually more suicide percentage stats, whatever,
Like
of
four
men
times
than
more for
women.
men.
Yeah, way more. So
I always tell people too, it's funny that they expect men not to cry, right? Because when men and women are born, our only way of communicating is through tears, through crying, right?
yeah,
If God didn't expect you to show those emotions to cry anymore, when He gave you the ability to use your voice box and to form words, He would have closed up your tear ducts. And-
yeah. And
But
what I
but
tell people too, like even Jesus wept.
mm,
Even Jesus wept, so why can't you?
mm.
Like,
Hey, you just trumped mine. I thought mine was a good one. Okay, Jesus wept.
but
Okay.
that's something I had to learn because I grew up and I couldn't really share my emotions. I couldn't cry. I always felt like I had to be the strong one. But like growing up, going through the things I went through, and like getting back into church, I learned, like, even Jesus wept. Jesus had emotions. Jesus had anger. So why? It's how you present it.
Yeah.
But even Jesus wept, so it's okay to cry too.
All right, last question for you, the very last one. What do you think about the podcast?
I liked it.
You liked it?
I liked it a lot. Yeah,
Would you
it
come
was
back and be on
fun.
it?
Yeah, you had very like in-depth questions.
Which is, I appreciate that compliment because, as if you didn't know, if I had the ability to show you, I probably could when we're done. But I don't have anything written down over here. It's all just the literally, it's nothing.
Yeah.
I just try to listen. That's why sometimes my questions come out like kind of like jumbled, or like it seems like I'm like trying to figure it out while I'm saying it. Is because I'm just really just actively listening to you and generating a question based off of what you said. So I
No,
appreciate.
that's good because you could. I mean, I know like some podcasters like they'll have, and there's nothing wrong with it, but like you'll have a guest and then you have like the standard list of questions, and like there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it depends on who you're like interviewing. You might have your own question outside of that list, you know,
Yeah,
and it
I just
just
looked
makes
at it
it more
when I start.
authentic.
That's what I was going to say. When I started this, I wanted to provide a platform where people can feel heard, give them a platform to be, to say what they want to say. Plus, it gives you your own anecdotal experience, right? Like if I have this list of questions that I ask each guest, then each episode is going to sound the same, similar to the same,
Yeah,
because it's like, oh, what does mental health mean to you? And then each guest is going to tell what it means to you. It's the same question. Obviously we know we all think differently, but why not try to I feel like why not try to ask questions about your personal story, and try to bring that out as much as we can with hopes that somebody who's listening to it can relate to it, right? Versus having this list of questions. And I'm not about to go, I have a life, this podcast doesn't pay me. I do it. It's very important and it takes up a lot of my time, but it doesn't pay me my bills at all. It doesn't even give me a 1 cent. I've made 1 cent.
mm,
So I don't have time to sit, nor do I wish to sit and snoop through your all your social media accounts looking for something I can ask questions about. Like I don't care. I'd rather you just come and have a conversation. If we don't talk about your story, we just talk about just different. We talk about powerlifting or whatever. That's fine. There's something in there that somebody's going to be able to relate to, and somebody's going to be able to
yeah,
give them some kind of hope to keep going. And that's all that I ask for. So
yeah.
I'm glad that you came on. I appreciate it. I would love for you to come back because we do have to get into you owning the gym. Um,
Oh, I don't own a gym. I just go to the gym, but
oh,
I'm just a coach.
I thought you owned a gym.
Oh no, gosh, no,
Oh, okay. Well, I
no,
want,
no, no.
but either way, just, because I coached powerlifting for a while. Just, that a lot of people don't understand that as powerlifting coaches or trainers or whatever the case may be, we check on our clients daily when it comes to like mental health because
Yes.
we understand that that's so much is so big of a part of your success and just in that one session is your mindset going into it, right? And then also what I tell people is you don't never a lot of times your clients don't think to ask is how your mental health is as a coach because you've got I'm checking on you and you're just one of you're one person, right? That I have of like 10, right? Now imagine I have to deal with those 10 people just like I have to deal with you and you're taking up 30 minutes of my time multiple
Yeah.
times throughout the day, and they don't think about that. Plus, I have family and all that. They don't think about that. So, I want to talk with you about that as well. Just some
Yeah.
different things that you hit on that we didn't get to. So hopefully I have you come back. I hope you come.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. All right. So look, this is the point of the episode where we get to switch seats. You get to be the interviewer, and I get to be the guest.
Yeah.
So you get to ask me any question you want.
What got you wanting to talk about mental health like that online and on a podcast?
Very simple, very simple. So, as you see the jersey behind me, it says Malia. It says 24. That's my niece. She committed suicide October 19th, 2024. And ironically, she was 24. So that's why all of us family members, we always push the forever 24 because she was 24 and she passed away in 2024. Also, my ex, her daughter, which was like my stepdaughter, she committed suicide back in 2021 at the age of 13. And that's why I'm here in Washington is because after that happened, there's like a whole big mess that thing, I don't really want to talk about that situation. But those are the reasons why. Those two are the ones that kind of like put me to where I was like, okay, I have to do something. I'm not a therapist. I don't wish to be a therapist, but I am good at talking. People have told me for years that I'm easy to talk to. They feel comfortable talking to me. So I just said, well, I feel like personally for me that the biggest thing that I've done to help me is to talk, is to begin to talk.
Hmm.
Whether I'm even talking about what's going on, I could be talking about something totally different, but it takes my mind off of that. And then that's just kind of like lets me at least breathe, and so that's what I just wanted to do. Just wanted to provide a place, for people to have.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Because I was wondering that because I'd followed you for a while on your main page, and then
Uh,
when I saw you at the podcast, I was like, I wonder what. I mean, people can start things with like mental health without a thing happening, but
let
I
me
was
tell you
just
something about
like,
social media. So I actually, believe it or not, I actually started back before my ex's daughter passed away. I started, that's not what started mental health for me. I started a mental health clothing brand, a apparel brand called Vessels They Power, which means that you're
oh,
a vessel of power, like because it's not just about the physical strength that you portray, the mental strength. That's very important as well. So like the first thing I came out with, the first piece of clothes I came out with, it said like 100% mental, 100% physical on it. And that actually went crazy. But social media, Instagram to be specific, and I hope that somebody from Instagram is watching this, because I'm gonna keep saying this over and over again, and I have proof of it. Instagram does not support mental health at all.
mm,
So there's a way on your Instagram. You can go to your Instagram and you can, in your settings, they have algorithm, right? You can reset your algorithm and then you can type in there types of things that you want to see in your algorithm and they'll push that to you. But depending on what you like, what you actually physically like and comment on, they'll adjust it. Like maybe it's 10% across for each one and then eventually it's like 50 for this, stuff like that. Now I went in there and I'm like, I'm really big on mental health, right? And I'm a really big believer that the things that you focus on and the things that you put in front of your face are going to shape uh, who you are, right? And just how your days go and stuff like that. So I was like, well, uh, Instagram for some reason believes that I just want to look at half naked women all day because I'm a man, and that's not the case. And they think that I just want to look at powerlifters squat and bench all day because I'm a powerlifter, and that's not the case. I'm multifaceted, And so I typed in there mental health, and I have the screenshot somewhere. I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna send it to you, so you can see it. It says as soon as I typed it in, it popped up at the bottom. It says Instagram does not support this topic. Now, even further, than we can go deeper in it. I messaged Instagram because, like I told you earlier, how long would you say you've been following me for? At least about 5, 10 years? 5 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
Like
it's
it's
been a
been a
while.
while, but yeah.
So during that time, I know for a fact that I was just how I'm pushing my podcast, I was pushing the apparel. The same Instagram that I use for the podcast is the same
Hmm.
exact Instagram that I use for the apparel. I just deleted the apparel post, changed the bio, and turned it into a powerlifting. But I already had 1,100 or 1,000 or whatever followers or whatever. Same
Oh,
thing. The thing is, no one, I mean, people who were in like my gym, people who were in my house, they had no idea. They would see me with apparel and they'd be like, "Oh, where you get that?" I'm like, "It's mine. I posted it on Instagram. Like it's been for sale for 2 weeks or whatever." I had no idea. And what was happening was because Instagram does not support mental health, which they explained to me in the email, is because it does not sell. No one gets hype about mental health, but what they do get sell hype about is the three things right now. Well, the two main things right now is crime and fitness. Those are two biggest things. And then after that, of course, we all know sex sales, right? And so
yeah,
what they did was they were pushing because especially because I was selling a product, they put that at the very bottom. Like they were only putting it out to 10% of my followers, right? And so if you put it out to 10% of my followers and I only got, let's just say hypothetically I got 1,000 followers, you only put it out to freaking 100 people, and half those people are not even on social media right now. They're probably
yeah,
so my point is, it's been a struggle with this because with just the podcast and the apparel because it gets hidden. My podcast page has gotten shadow banned probably like 10 times in the last year
oh
because
my God,
every time I hashtag mental health or something like that, I get shadow banned. Like if you go look at my likes and I show you where I hashtag mental health, it'll be like the post before that. Let's just say it had like 100 likes, and then for like a week after that, all my posts would be like 10, 7, 4,
yeah,
and then it'll kind of like run its course, and then it'll pop back up, and then I'm not going to stop hashtagging it, and then it just kind of like so I just kind of dealt with it.
yeah.
Just kind of dealt with it now. So.
I get that because when I forget what the post was mainly about, but I talked about self-harm and I didn't change the wording, like how I spelled it, like putting
Yeah.
the symbols. And I usually on my story on Instagram, I have at least like 700 and 900 people viewing my story. That's why I'm very active on my story because my story be popping.
Hmm.
But when I did that, 32 to 50 people on my story, and I was like, why? Like this is weird. And then I realized it was from that post.
Mm.
So I was like, oh,
Great.
great. Like,
Terrible. All right. You got any more
yeah,
questions?
not that I can think of right now.
All right.
So
Well, look, like I said, I appreciate you coming on, showing vulnerability, and then also just understanding the premise of this podcast and having that, you align with that. And like I said, sharing your story so somebody else can be encouraged and inspired. And hopefully we just save one person, I mean.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
all.
Thank you for having me on.
Of course, of course. Before we get out of here, for all you guys who are listening to her story, if you guys enjoyed her story, drop a heart in the comments. If you'd like to come be on the podcast, shoot me an email to mindoveremotions.podcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. It's free and just kind of help push the narrative of this podcast. And we out of here. Peace.